Welcome to the January 7th OpenZFS production user call. We have Andrew, Steve, Jan, Rob, Daniel, and myself so far, and I have posted the 2025 User and Developer Summit presentations with direct links to videos. Go ahead and check those out. They're at the standard wiki page on the summit, which is on the front page of the wiki at openzfs.org. I am looking for help on cleaning up 2024 and previous years. We've just spent an hour doing inside baseball on various ways to clean up, say, subtitles with Whisper and other tools. So thank you for the invaluable feedback there and great ideas and a few options to offers to volunteer on things. And this crossed my desk and we were just starting to get into it. There is now the webzfs Jinja and Python based management tool. And I am curious, what role does this place? Is that to be a lightweight NAS, for lack of a better term, or is it purely the ZFS aspects, or what? Who knows something about this?
I only know a very little, because JT, the author,
Hmm.
was showing it to me a few months
Picture.
ago. But it is, as best I understand it, it is pretty much ZFS and disk focused.
Hmm.
Um, like, so it's not those, so the modern NAS thing of, like, containers and applications and that sort of thing. Well, there's your feature set,
There
but it
we
does
go.
do some
Features.
modifications. It's not just a pane of glass. It does have some, I'll create a pool and whatever else. So, but yeah, it's trying to be. My understanding is that it's trying to be a semi-opinionated, but pretty as lightweight as sort of possible. So it's not a kitchen sink. It's just oh,
Hmm.
you're running a CFS. Here, have something that you can, you know, visualize what you're doing, and it's got some nice little, it's got some nice colors and graphs and things, which I'm always drawn in by because I'm a sucker.
That's sweet.
But
Would it be naive of me to ask if they are making extensive use of libzfs core?
uh, uh, no, my understanding at this point is that they're only using the command line tools.
Okay, thank you. But you
So
see where I'm headed with that.
yeah,
You know the
they're
context.
they're using the JSON output, um,
Oh,
and not for ZFS and zpool commands, and also not afraid to drop down to ZDB when necessary, because you know Author is a pretty competent ZFS debugger. So,
cool. I
he
will
was like,
say the JSON output
yeah,
embrace is a huge step forward because this
yeah,
is not like 2012
yeah,
anymore. Cool.
yeah.
Thank you for
So,
that insight.
yeah, I will ping him and see if he wants to. I mean, not like he's my own secret friend or anything, but I'll ping him and see if he wants to swing by here and tell you all about it.
Oh yeah, doors open.
Um,
Yeah, I'm looking through the code. He's definitely going out to the command line most of the time. It looks like.
Uh,
Sorry.
is there any notion of delegation in it, or is it root, root, and more root?
I have no idea.
Okay, no worries.
I don't
Because
see it doing anything like delegating stuff. Um,
like,
but I don't.
Andrew can do snapshots, and Jan can do replication, and Daniel can scrub. Although maybe it's a bad example. I
Yeah.
don't know if the zpool command has the full delegation, but ZFS does. Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
I mean, it looks to me, and I'm just kind of giving this a quick look. It looks to me like maybe what he's doing, this is running as expected to be running as root, or at least something that has all permissions on your ZFS stuff. And so it just runs commands as itself, maybe. That's what it
It
looks
looks
like
like
to me.
it's running some through sudo, but I'm not sure. It's a bit
okay.
Linux thinking, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, but JT's a super nice guy. So if you want to play around with it, and you know, so as I understand, like this, he does not consider this finished. This is pretty V1, so or V0.1. So I don't know, 0.52. There you go.
There you
So
go. Cool.
yeah, pinging if you're like, oh, I like this. Could we have this other thing?
Sure, sure,
I'm
sure.
sure it'd be pretty receptive, and Python's pretty approachable. So I'm generally not trying to be a hype man. I just I know his mindset, and so I know that it's like okay, a lot of this is going to be very thoughtful.
Cool. Sorry for
I
changing
mean,
to
I'm
the
not
wrong
seeing sudo on
tab.
some of the stuff I would expect to see it on.
Maybe then maybe I'm wrong. Like I said, I haven't actually looked at it. I've only chatted to him a little bit.
Cool. Again, the fact that it's embracing JSON output rather than, a whole bunch of R regex on other command output is a delight acknowledgement that he's on the right track. Cool. That further said, Rob, if you're willing to summarize it, or if you have it handy, do you have a link to your, and I'm searching elsewhere, your quiz post? I missed I literally
Uh,
forgot that it had a
was
cool video output or
It
ASCII
was
art or
just
something.
on my, yeah, it was a little ASCII cinema thing. It was just on my Mastodon. Hang on one sec.
Python
Yeah,
searching
where
tool.
you lie, sir. I just got the elephant. I don't know how computers work. Um, Hang on. There we go. Great. I make the best video material because I just fumble on the thing. That's the post
Oh, sweet. Yep.
and the direct video thinger is that one. And
Sweet.
I mean, it's not much of a video. It's like you're looking at a FreeBSD boot, but if you watch the start of it, you'll just see that, oh, it's just a running a shell script, and then when I, um, it drops you straight into a shell, and then when I exit it, it's gone, which is the entire conceit of quiz. So,
Oh, what did you have to tickle to make that happen? Is this a wrapping shell script? Is it a bunch of beehive changes? Is it something else entirely?
no, so it's not Beehive, it's QEMU.
Okay, so that's still the
Um,
QEMU version.
on,
Okay, got it.
on Linux, yeah, Beehive is still not suitable for the way I do things, but that's okay. And
But that is on
uh,
your
duh,
radar, or that's as a guest, or what? So what?
um, this goes back to my BSD can talk. There's still things missing from the hypervisor that I need, which is like
Got it.
can run in user space and sort of the ephemeral. They don't need to be destroyed after the VM is finished. Um, I know the code's out there, the work's being done, but it's just not there yet.
Got it. And yes, the unprivileged beehive is a priority for 2026 for folks like the foundation. So that's good news.
Yeah. So all I did, sorry, I'm just trying to wrong hole. I'm just trying to find my notes.
No worries.
Oh, there it is. Notes FreeBSD. I can't get
Oh,
much clearer than that. Um, so all that is, and this is very inside, like your QEMU for this, but what you see there is I'm taking so this Zoroso is a an ISO editor. So I'm taking one of the release images, and then I'm making just so I'm dropping my own copies of some basic files into it. So like, loader conf to set up my the initial system tunables, like Getty tab to make sure that they're I think we auto log in on the serial line. RC conf is what we all know. Get rid of RC local, which bounces directly into the installer, and like syscontrol conf for a couple of things. Can't remember what. I think the settings I'm changing are mostly like the shutdown. Like don't wait 30 seconds for everything to die. Just die.
just yeah.
Um, yep. And then that's just a very simple QEMU startup. Um, there will be a lot more than that. Quiz actually generates those command lines for like the full version with all the options you want. But that's the basic idea. And if you're really into the with Cinematic Universe, you'll see I'm using the Q35 machine there and not the micro VM because stock FreeBSD kernels cannot boot on the micro VM profile because it
Ah,
doesn't have enough computer in there. You have to
hmm,
build one,
hmm,
and then you can, but I didn't want to do that. But part of the point of doing it this way is that it's actually really quite difficult to boot a FreeBSD kernel without its loader. It's doable, but it's difficult. And I just thought, okay, what's the fastest way in here? Is just use the loader. And if you tune a bunch of stuff down enough, it's like it's like a third of a second we live.
hmm,
Like the bounce through the loader into the kernel.
hmm.
Um, the kernel still takes a moment to start up, so it's fine.
I don't know if this helps you, but I did learn a few hours ago that one can run Beehive under QEMU on Intel with the ARM host as the guest, which was helpful in the context of ARM 64 Beehive development. And so this will be the
Interesting.
second time today that I have QEMU syntax, and I will drop that in chat. So we'll bring that up on tomorrow's call. But this has been a great day for QEMU. And thank you for painting this other portion of the picture because I had never heard of X or ISO, which is very cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I just searched around. I'd never heard of it before. I just saw like, I wonder what I can do with all these different things.
Awesome.
Um, the oh the
Awesome. Awesome.
again, while we're totally on topic with this call,
Yes.
the other thing about recent QMU FreeBSD thing is there was a post on one of the lists from Summer of Code student who is like not going to have time to complete their project, but they had been writing a QMU backend for libvmm, which basically means
Yes. Beehive.
accelerated
Yes.
QMU
Correct.
on FreeBSD, which I had boldly stated in my talk a couple of years ago wasn't possible because they have a fundamentally different memory model. So I haven't got around to it yet, but I'm curious to have a read of that because I mean at that point there is a serious question about whether it is worth keeping the hypervisor part of Beehive at all. But that's for other people to have a conversation about. I have no skin in that game. Um, but
Keep it where in is are there
oh
shims in QEMU or what? Or that's the
oh no
project,
no
eh?
as in the Beehive command.
Hmm.
QEMU is like, I mean, mostly by dint of it being around a lot longer, it's just like it's got a lot more devices in it.
Sure.
It can do a lot more stuff, and if it could use the kernel's acceleration on FreeBSD, then it's like,
It would
but
still be worth keeping
I mean,
because a lot of people want Beehive because it's not QEMU.
And licensing and but yeah, I
Not
hear
just
you.
not just licensing, but they want a hypervisor with a smaller attack surface which does not have 10 million lines of device emulation, which isn't needed anymore, and so on.
yeah,
Also note the like 50,000 VMware flags you can choose from, and we've gone through those on calls to like just realize the scope. And yes, there's a time you want to go full rabbit hole on all config options, and there are also times you just want it to work. And the OpenBSD folks, for what it works, keep it simple, make it work. I'm fine having my hands tied on all the options. So anyway, it's all good. It's a toolkit. It's
mhm,
may a thousand flowers bloom.
indeed.
Cool. Uh, as a major stretch, thinking of hardware acceleration of virtual machines, for 2026, I would love to make a table of hardware assistance features. We've talked about these a la carte over the last year, like what aspect of OpenZFS does an AVX512 feature in your CPU help with? Is it the compression? Is it checksumming? Is it this or is it that, etc.? I'd love to start the year with a chart of such things. If someone wants to help, let me know. If we want to bang it out on a call, great. But if you've got something to throw in the pot, just throw it in the pot and I'll churn the pot as best I can.
Yeah, if you make a spot for that, I can fill it in based on the code.
That
Um,
is brilliant. Thank you.
um, I'm not very good at starting things, but if you made an empty,
Sure.
literally, if you press create document, yeah, it's going to be a little different on FreeBSD and Linux
Oh,
in
exactly. Yes,
just
please.
in the encryption side, but
Hmm.
the compression and checksumming is all all internal. But that would be a really good thing to have because one of my quest lines is making it not so very jankily platform specific, being able to understand what the local environment has and like FreeBSD has a lot more stuff available than we use. Um, but also, oh, you've got OpenSSL, let's use that. So, which has really good
Exactly
acceleration as well.
that. So can you give me one single example that I can start as a placeholder, just like AVX512 or like you said, SSL or something, just to kind of
Oh, right.
frame it?
Well, AVX 512 on oh, actually, is that even good? Hang on, what am I trying to say? What do you mean, an example of one that's different?
One that touches that OpenZFS can make use of through some code path that you have the feature on and off like a light switch, and OpenZFS benefits in thing, be it compression, be it
I see.
stuff,
So,
thing, anything, literally a baby step in this direction.
right. Well,
So
if you have AVX 512, well, since 2.4, if you have AVX 512 CPU, on Linux, you will get accelerate like AVX 512 accelerated AES GCM, which is for
For
encryption.
the encryption. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I
Literally
mean,
that.
yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, you will get accelerated AES GCM with lots of different things, but you will get an AVX 512 version, which you would not have got in 2.3. So,
Brilliant. So that's where there's the kind of grid, the axis of version of OpenZFS and the operating systems, host operating systems, and all that. That just there's no way
yeah,
to build that out without starting somewhere.
there are multiple variables, so it's going to be one of those to really do it well, it's going to be one of those funky, n-way
Hmm.
spreadsheets. But whatever, we have the technology. It's just everything is rows in a database table. So
Bingo. Thank you. Thank you. Because that's literally what I was hoping to initiate. And I'll think if that should maybe in my ecosystem, it starts as a Google Doc and becomes a wiki page. But if we want to start with wiki and you love wiki syntax, I'm happy to do that.
okay,
And maybe there's
I,
something out
I
there already. I just haven't looked for it.
I enjoy the least amount of time to type, or the thing I can most easily generate by writing a dumb script to scan the source code and spit out some stuff. But
Amen.
whatever. I help. It's all good.
Amen. Great. Thank you. Oof, okay, we're on a roll, and that was as I'm reconnecting. That was the end of my super fancy agenda. Who else has topics? Looking around the room at Steve, Andrew, Jan, Daniel.
I have an exciting topic.
Ooh, I like exciting topics.
Okay.
Daniel, what
So
you
this
got?
is so this is about like using user properties and when people are trying to scare me away with old wives' tales about
Ooh.
how evil user properties can be. So I ran 400 million user property sets, just manual single transaction group sets on a file, and it decreased the speed of the pool by let me see, zero, exactly zero. Uh, so if 400 million if 400 million sets isn't doing it, when do I need to be concerned about using replication hints? Which, by the way, is literally Sun's example of when to use user properties. It's use it for like something like replication hints, which would be awesome because that could decrease overhead. It could make Zelta do all kinds of magical things. Um, just good for I don't know. There's some fun ideas I have with them. But I brought this up and I was like, well, why not just, why do I need to generate a whole other database? So there is the old, Gandhi mythology where they used ZFS user properties to provide metadata for VMs. This is not that, I'm not suggesting I do that, but now I'm curious because I've just done massive amounts of stress testing and I cannot cause a problem with the type of use cases that I'm thinking of.
I think
Um,
I think you have enough of a normal operation afterward, like ZFS send or receive, depending on which side, that the other head of reading or setting a property doesn't really matter.
exactly. That's the number one
It's
thing I was thinking of. It's like if you think about the different drops in
where
the
it
bucket,
becomes
this is a
a problem is if you do it, for example, during the purge planning stage, and every read is on your critical path, every write too. So anytime you kind of want to update what to keep and so on, it can become a bottleneck potentially because you have so many single steps in your critical path, and their channel programs are the way to batch those operations.
right. Although one thing that I've learned about ZFS through my hard work is that it's hierarchical. So so if I'm running a number of hierarchical commands and I have a hint for certain you know certain behaviors, replication and otherwise, um, I'm probably I'm probably not in a situation where I necessarily need to generate enormous amounts of writes. But
So
yes, your point is taken. If I was doing something, fancy and recursively and et cetera, I would definitely use channel programs for
one
something where I need to be atomic and something where I need to, yeah.
So a really
Uh,
good use case, for example, for user properties I see in the context of Zelta is preserving properties which would be unsafe to replicate directly, like the mount point.
exactly. So I need to, yeah, I
And
need to protect. Yeah, if I want to, if my job is to communicate about replication relationships and also to protect a system administrator or a fleet from foot guns, then I need to unset certain things, and I need to also have a hint, preferably that's connected with the pool in the data set itself, rather than
I
with
would
the
say you
with a
want
separate
to
database.
rewrite stuff so that you kind of normalize the mount point, then rewrite it so that it is the hierarchy is preserved, just rewritten
Right.
so that it's safe, but the data sets are still mounted in the right place relative. On a backup system, you probably want the backups to be read only, but you
Yeah.
want to preserve the read only property value. Again,
Right.
back it up to a user property. That's what they're perfect
Right.
for.
Right.
Um,
That's where it gets
but
tricky, where
the
my defaults have to be different from in order to sort of express my opinions, I need to keep track of the old ones.
and the other problem is that ZFS looks hierarchical until it isn't.
Hmm.
So, for example, if you do a recursive snapshot, create a new data set underneath that parent, and then create a new snapshot with the same name on the new file system, let's say an at empty or something, and you do a recursive send, you will find that ZFS internally knows what was part of the recursive snapshot, but won't tell you. You have lost data now because you forgot to replicate it, because you did a recursive send when there were new subdata sets, which
Yeah.
were not part of
Well,
the same recursive snapshot. But
well,
you
the good
won't see
news
it in a
is,
list. And those are the places where either you have to do a list, which becomes slow, or filter a giant list, or you run
For
a
now.
general program to do your planning.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. And that's the entire reason for being, is because, my experience with ZFS is I am, you know, somebody parachutes me into ancient TrueNAS fighting with an old machine, and I'm running FreeBSD, and I want all of them to talk without issues, which is going really well. The really hard part is all Andrew's fault, um, because I can't figure out where to install man pages sometimes, and stuff like that on a Lumos. Uh, but we're making but I'm making really good progress there also.
So
All
Daniel,
right, so
back to the
so
Also,
hints.
some platforms
fundamentals.
man pages lie.
Yeah, well, that's yeah. Um, so hints, yeah, I think I can do hints. I can get away with it, and I think that I can engineer this in a way that is not going to create churn.
Okay, so Daniel, about the fundamentals. I don't think anyone's ever said that the reads of properties are inefficient any way, shape, or form, but it's the writes that are administrative operations that can say everything administrative here
400
now.
million,
I'm
400
sorry,
million, Michael.
400 million writes at the same time?
400 million writes.
Sweet.
Constant,
Okay.
constant writes. I'm telling you,
No
I've done
kidding.
I've done
Sweet.
400 million writes, and different transaction groups, all of them, and the pool itself has not changed. And the only thing that I'm doing is exactly what I said I was going to do, which is I'm going to use a I'm going to write and overwrite a few key properties
Yeah.
to communicate about key state. And it's not seriously, the tenth write and the 10th replication are exactly the same as the 400 millionth write and the 400 millionth
Okay.
replication.
Is there other Z-pool administrative stuff going on behind the scenes simultaneously?
No, nothing. I mean,
And
it's literally, I'm just hammering away at, I'm destroying disks for science here.
great. Can Okay. That said, Rob, enlighten us. Was this fixed sometime in the last few years? That would be great, great news. Because I do recall that old wives' tale of like they burned their fingers when they thought, oh, we'll just do these, we'll store everything in properties, and then suddenly, wait, why is the pool waiting for that to take place?
All right, if you'll uh forgive me if I get anything wrong because I um there was a lot there, but
Right.
no. Uh no, there's not going to be an issue with storing one, like a property per million data, one property over 1 million data sets or whatever. Each property list is a separate object. So it would be like making a small change to n million files. Like it's that sort of thing. The thing that's probably hurting is that, yeah, each one is a separate round trip into the kernel, with no context of what came before. So each one is a separate transaction commit. Do we do? I don't know if we do a full sync at the end of it, but it doesn't really matter because it's going to hit the timeout, and over those numbers, it's huge anyway. So that's what the hurt is, I suppose, that each time we have to wait until that's committed. So what you really need is yeah. I assume we're talking about making that go fast, yeah.
But not making
So
it go slow such that you change the name of a VM and then that kicks off an administrative operation that makes other stuff wait, is how I recall it from Stockholm years ago.
right,
Are there
Yeah, but
do's
basically,
so
and
does
don'ts? Simple
so
do's and
does
don'ts.
Yeah, so does taking a bookmark, and so does replicating a data set,
yeah.
and so does,
Mm,
like, if I'm talking about integrity of information, and
Mm.
to
sure.
the way around this situation, so ZXfer, RIP. They did it. So that was funny. It was a ZFS plus rsync tool.
Yes, it
We
was.
were just Alan took stewardship over it
Yep.
for a while, but I think finally gave up on it.
Yep.
But yeah, what they did is they just recorded a dot file. So a dot file with a list of properties. And maybe that was exactly the right thing to do when it was designed, whenever that was. I assume
Long ago.
mid 2010s
Hmm.
or earlier. So yeah, I think we might be over the hump where that's meaningful, where and I only need to change the diffs because one thing that I want. So the theory behind Zelta is it communicates and shares the relationship between two data sets regardless of whether it's local or remote. That's the that's the theory in a nutshell. I call it a replication tool, but that's really the broader goal. And and I think that just being able to sort of, if Zelta has a way to replicate properties and there is a source of truth and so on, all I need to do is have a record of, basically last action and things that Zelta must do in order to, keep integrity and keep it out of the hands of, make sure the backup operator can't see live data, for example. So um, just little notes. I made this read only. This is being treated as XYZ. This encryption key is in another castle. Stuff like that.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to make that an optional backend, I think, of of let's call it 1.2 in June. We're gonna have that option, and then we can race them, and we can decide whether writing ZFS properties is terrible or not.
Considered harmful,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to use an ancient phrase. Okay, well,
Yeah.
yes, please. And uh, Daniel, I assume you work with potentially quite a few read-only sources such that user properties might not be an option, and you're back to dot files on a tempfs mount. I don't know, just thinking out
I
loud
would
here.
never I would never write anything to a source, and you
Mm,
couldn't do it by threatening me. That's
there you
that's
go.
you know
Yep,
my
yep.
that's my finance background.
Sweet.
So there's no such thing as reading a source, and Zelta is designed around the idea that the backup operator shouldn't even know what the hell is on it. So I mean, and the great thing is, since raw came out, there's basically one set of, I don't there's less. I'm still doing property juggling because I want to do lowest common denominator, but basically the raw send is the same as LCE now. So basically the default function is that, and you would only want to override sort of Zelta's standard way of doing things, assuming you're not encrypted, and you want to, and then you want to compress it on the other side. So I think with the way ZFS is evolving, I mean, a lot of the things that I've coded Zelta to do become less and less relevant. And there's all this work being done with super fast ZFS lists. I've done I've done so many things about speeding up and running lists concurrently and stuff like that. That's not going to be a big deal either pretty soon. So it's fun to try to make a tool that's bleeding edge and grows with ZFS. I'm telling everybody to use send raw by default in my wiki, which of course is a feature that Linux doesn't even have yet. Or that's not true, of course, but not you have to aim for it.
Daniel,
Yeah.
if I understand correctly, Zelta sync will only add the new snapshots from the source, right? It will not prune the snapshots which no longer exist in the source, right?
Will never prune. And so that I believe that should be a completely separate operation with a completely separate orchestration system. So the retention manager is a different job in my world. So the idea that you have a dashboard that tells you when to delete stuff and that has the capacity to erase the data on the target is completely bananas to me. It's that was one of the things that I encountered when trying to choose a tool, and why I decided to write my own, is because like that just literally didn't make any sense. It just didn't compute. It just doesn't compute at all. It not even it just it's like, this isn't serious. It's like that's just how I felt about it. But yeah, so pruning, obviously, like nobody's going to use Zelta until it has at least there is a Zelta family tool besides, I guess, ZFS Snap is what I use. I'll probably write my own at some point, because I need, or just steal ZFS Snap and tune it up so it's a little bit smarter. Um, but yeah, I will be adding some tool in the future that does pruning. But yeah, Zelta doesn't do any kind of pruning. And you can't delete with it. There's no option. If you use -F, it will work, but it'll yell at you.
If only you had a talk on the subject. Oh, you have a great talk from the summit. Look at the top of the doc for mention of the uploaded slides and videos. Woohoo! Well, thank you, Daniel. That is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun turning it into a production tool. It's the first time that I've made something for the world like this. So uh yeah, I'm very excited about the June version. But the version that's out now is pretty cool.
Amen. It's darn near feature complete for my purposes, but hey, I'm just one user. It's delightful. Other topics, news, fun stuff. 2026 goals to share and vocalize. It is a pleasure to hear that you have your entire year sorted. And we don't have to discuss any of that nonsense. You've got it all planned out. Cool. I'm excited. This is great stuff.
It's gonna be a good year.
I sure hope
I do
so.
have a question.
Yes.
I do have a question for Rob about exclude, but we can do that after the recording.
Exclude sounds like something that people may care about. If you're open to it, Rob?
Well, I mean, ask a question. I haven't updated to it yet because I got lazy in the last month, and yeah, and
Are you saying that it was the holiday season? Oh my gosh.
true.
Well, that's okay, because you gave me time to fix some egregious bugs. So
That's good. And because I wasn't at my computer at all, my snapshots rolled out in exactly the way I described, and now my backups are invalid, and I'm going to rerun them this morning.
oh gosh.
Oh, you mean you no longer have the latest origin? Because what is a short-term snapshot?
Yeah, because well, the thing I asked for, and then Daniel can tell you more, or maybe it doesn't fit in there, but the I do the like the I think it's one of the Sanoid tools, the one that makes the snapshots, but it does like uh it takes a snapshot like every hour, and then at the end of the day rolls them down into like a daily, and then there's a daily, and then at the end of the month it kind of rolls those up into a monthly, and so it's sort of this staggered thing. But what then happens is if I've rolled out like, oh yeah, so say I use the thing I noticed with Zelta, which I love in every other way, because but what would happen is it would like say the most recent source was like, hourly at like, 2100 or something, and it would say, oh, that's the latest, cool, I'll push that out, I'll sync that over, and then we'd go past the, say, midnight. That snapshot will be deleted because it's rolled into the hourly one, and sorry, into the daily, and then the next time it runs it would go, oh well, the thing I last synced from is no longer there. I can't make this work, which is like entirely reasonable. And so what I suggested was, well, could I have an option that says don't consider these snapshots named hourly when I push, only consider daily. So or whatever. I'm explaining that very badly, but that's what I asked for. And then Daniel rightly pointed out a couple of places that might not be exactly the right thing and did a different thing, and I haven't had a chance to do it all. Go, Daniel.
Well, first of all, when I get into that situation, I just use Zelta rotate and it renames and then syncs the clone, so it can
Oh,
catch you up regardless of your target state. Um,
oh my
you know,
God, you might have
as
just
long
made me.
as but there's also yeah. So the talk that I want to do in BSD Can will be about how to use Zelta for iterative infrastructure, and I have some interesting development ideas around that. Okay, but what I meant to talk about was exclude. So it occurs to me that excluding on the target side entirely is pointless, because if the purpose is to identify a delta, then we need the target. We basically need the target latest snapshot. It can't be a bookmark, it can't be anything else. It has to be the
Yeah,
target latest snapshot, or else you can't do it. Then you need to do a rotate or rename and clone or whatever.
yeah.
So
I wanted
that's
to exclude on the source side, but you might be talking about a
yeah.
broader feature. Yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry,
So
sorry,
yeah.
go on.
So I understood that the only the source side could be excluded, but then I realized, okay, that's great, but you could exclude. You have to be the user would have to be very disciplined about correctly remembering to just exclude and only replicate the ones that matter, the dailies or however you want to describe it, to make sure that the target final snapshot is up to date. So I think what I have to do to make exclude really work is, and this isn't for the next month, but it would be something to add later, that would actually just do ZFS and incrementals for anything that matches your target, and also it can't, and make it so that it's impossible to exclude um, the target matching snapshot. So I think I have to add that logic. And but I mean, I don't know. What do you think about that? Is this thing totally useless unless I can sort of do a ZFS send with basically a stepwise one that gets like all the dailies or all of the whatever ones that aren't excluded.
I, so I have slightly less rigid requirements when it comes to preserving every mistake.
Yeah.
And my requirement is that it must not fail to get the latest step. It's not acceptable if it just stops backing stuff up, because especially if it could be automatically resolved just as a matter of policy, you shouldn't have done that. That system shouldn't have been down for 3 days, so
Hmm.
that now the hourly snapshots, which are only kept for 3 days, are out of sync and it can't resume from the last hourly replication snapshot.
Yeah, that's exactly the case that I'm thinking of. Is that
In my
is
opinion,
that
it
there's
should.
a yeah, there's a divergence, and then there's
Hmm?
500 snapshots between the divergence, and I was backing up the wrong
Yeah.
source because the
And
snapshot policy on server A ended up on my backup server when I meant it to be coming from server B. So that's
the other thing is,
So I think that observation, the system should not have been down for 3 days, is like that is probably like a sort of a like a fundamental question as to do you want your software to support that case? In my case, it is entirely reasonable for the source machine to be offline for 3 days because it's a laptop that I move around with, and if I
mhm.
close the lid and chuck it in my bag and then, you know, uh, go round to a friend's place and have a couple of beers and that turns into a weekend bender. It doesn't happen, but I'm making up a story. Then it is going to be off the network for 3 days. Um, and also network is weird in Australia, and I deliberately operate in a way that I have a lot of stuff on my laptop. I can last a long time without network or without reliable network, where I would not want to back up over it, but I can still send emails. So like that's a whole set of use cases. And you could just say, no, Zelta does not cater that, because Zelta is designed for ultimately, big finance machines where they're on all the time, and it is critically important that everything knows where it is. And I would say, okay, mate, no problem, because that would
No,
just
but that's, yeah, but
like,
but my example
even in
wasn't,
finance,
oh
yeah,
no,
my
systems
example, yeah,
break,
my
systems
example was
fail,
that,
and if you amplify the fallout, you're not helping anyone.
yeah, but my point is simply like, yeah, if it's a use case you want to support, then cool. Let's talk about that. But I wanted to just put that out there, because you might have gone, yeah, I really don't want to support laptops. I really want to support my use cases, which I know are,
I don't think it's a laptop use case. It's like I said, like what if, like I've definitely seen situations
Mm.
where there's a failover situation, but the backup server is still hoovering snapshots from a, from one of these
Mm.
time-based policies. So if
Yeah.
you have a time-based policy, you're at risk that your backup server could be pulling a divergent set. So so it is absolutely a business
Yeah.
recovery situation.
Okay.
I mean, Zelta Rotate does it, and
Mm.
it'll keep the broken bits and find the source, and do sort of an atomic clone in the way that ZFS send-r does, capital R, I mean. Um, but
Where's
yeah, I
my
think that's yeah, I guess I think it's I think that's right. I should do a stepwise. I should have a stepwise, like a lowercase I should, or a lowercase, or a dash x should maybe automatically do a stepwise replication. I think it would be a really cool feature. I think that would be really great, because I think that we're obsessed. I feel like the ZFS world is obsessed with time-based snapshots, but that's only one expression that a snapshot could take. It could be the replication time. It could be the uh,
Written property. We've had this
what?
discussion. Written
Yeah.
property. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Yeah.
written property is that's the heart, and that's the beating heart of Zelda. Is it snapshots
Um,
when something's written, because
Uh,
it wants to get something. I mean, by default,
well,
obviously, but
no, is written or about, ignore it if it's under a certain size, and care a
right,
lot if it's
threshold.
approaching a certain size, because we don't want like massive certain snapshots if it can like internally chunk without you thinking about it. Yay.
Yeah, March. Yeah, the March update will certainly have a threshold. That's definitely hot on my list.
I have to plan my
That
year over Zelta releases. Jesus, Daniel.
Well, I could try to get funded. I don't know.
Ooh, I like that too. But go ahead. I'll shut up.
But yeah, okay. So all right, so stepwise is going. That's not for the next release, but
No worries.
I'm gonna do that. That's exciting.
Sweet.
Threshold, yes. Stepwise, no. But now dash x dash smart exclude is, I think that's really fun, because then you get your backups, but you can take as many snapshots as you want, and you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to
mm.
worry about your stupid targets in the wrong state for smooth replication jobs. If we could do stepwise uh, transfers, I
Sweet.
love
Yeah,
it. I'm
that would
doing it.
totally rock. Okay. I love it. Holler if I can help. With testing or with providing a dumb feature that, I mean, I know,
Oh
and then
God,
you can
give
wait
me
5 years for it to be released. But
yeah. Well, it took me 18 months to go between version 1 and 1.1. So I'll get a few more out this year.
awesome. I'm excited. It's gonna be cool.
Stu, welcome. What you got?
Not at this moment.
Okay. Cool. Will you be at NAB?
At this point, it doesn't look like it,
No, okay. Cool.
which is, fantastic, and can actually get some work done that week instead of for the 3 weeks prior and 2 weeks after.
Exactly. Cool. Got it. Got it. Got it. Any questions for the Rob Norrises of the world?
Nope, just waiting with bated breath on the next Zelta.
Sweet.
Plus, I want to hear offline what the truly abominable errors were, just because I'm always good for a laugh.
Jan, I suppose, is asking, is there any progress on libzfs, and what would V2 mean? Do we even have a V1? Let me put it that way.
I was
Unless it's
literally, I was
implicit
literally
current
just
version.
that. I mean, hey, we have no V1 and no stability guarantee, so now, um, uh, I don't. I don't know. There won't. I mean, libzfs, as we know, let's call libzfs the class of um libraries. I don't know. I am working slowly in that direction. So something I am working on, very slowly, but I hope to have more time for it this year. I do see that you were joking, Young, but is basically programmatic generation um uh of like libzfs core effectively. Um, Basically, so the ioctl interface in the kernel, which is how the ZFS programs talk to the kernel, is actually like most of it is pretty well structured. There's an input NV list and an output NV list, and there are some tables in the code that define, which keys are valid and what types they should be. And it's a bit anemic, but it is the start of basically like a schema-driven construction. What I'm trying to do is basically lift that schema out into like it's a .toml file, and it's in the source code, and then the idea is we'll generate the interface inside the kernel, based off that, but we would also then be able to generate uh libzfs core like as a library. You wouldn't see this. This would all be part of the build process. But the point then is that if we add a new ioctl, like if we want to, we want to add a new command internally, you would start off by adding it to the schema file, and then that would generate the stub in the stub code inside the kernel. It would also generate the libzfs core extension that you need. So the API call would be just there in the next version. But also, if you were a third-party client, yes, RPC gen for NV list, very similar concept. If you were, say, a developer in another language, you pull that schema file and you use it to generate the ioctl interface for your language. So you no longer need to link with libzfs core. You just need to generate the thing for your language that works in whatever way it does. So that's the idea. And I mean, I'm not just messing around. I have a need for this for user space as well, because on the server side, sorry, on the kernel side, which would be running in a user space daemon program, you'd be talking to it over a socket. So I'd actually want to generate something that's not an ioctl receiver, something that's actually taking like, something over a local socket or JSON instead of NV lists or whatever. So I just want a single source of truth for this is a description of the interface between user tooling and the ZFS module, wherever it may live. So that's kind of where I'm going. But so yeah, so it's like not anything anyone can use, but that's kind of
A path forward.
That's a path forward. I realize that that doesn't help with everything, because like some of the things that some of the places that libzfs is appealing is to be able to do things like iterate over every data set and do this thing, which uh, requires a bunch of round trips into the kernel, but that also does mean that maybe that will be less necessary because it will make it a lot easier to have common description and common language of some of those things. I'm not entirely sure where it is off the end, but it's something I need, and it's something that might unlock a bunch of other stuff. So I don't know how much gapping sense that made, but that's kind of where my thinking and direction is. So at the moment,
In
because,
in the spirit of yapping and the now 2 year conversation on this, if you find yourself, and I mean you, everyone out there, if you find yourself working on something like Zelta or webzfs or ZFS Snap or Thing, watch for opportunities when you have a little light bulb go off and think, oh gosh, if only a library I could like build against would was available and would let me do this easier. So just understanding the problem and opportunities is half the battle. And like Jan, having you exercise it with your own little C utility is very helpful because it's a real world exercise rather than speculation on what people at some point might want. Just saying.
What I really want is an
Yes.
extended ZFS channel API so that I can do it
mm,
all in a channel program.
that's funny. What
Um,
what I really want is to get rid of channel programs entirely. So
okay, why? I'm really curious why you think that's an interface which should be just removed.
because I don't think putting whole programs in the kernel is
Mhm.
the right approach for that. I think the better approach is essentially command lists, like batching, like
So
effectively being able to express what you say first. I don't know, say we already have a create a data set command,
yes,
ioctl, whatever. We already have a set a property command. What I
yes.
would like to be able to do is, as I say, every single command is, an NV list. So why can it not be we have
A
an,
list of lists.
an array of commands, basically, and you load all of those into the kernel
Oh,
and you just,
that's easy.
yeah, that's
But it
what I
doesn't
want.
solve my problem.
No, it does.
No, it
It
doesn't.
does. It does once it's filled out.
No,
Why does it not solve your problem?
Atomicity?
because the ability that which makes kind of what I want possible is to map, filter, and
Yep.
then apply something.
Yep.
So your command list can really express filtering unless you have a query language you can express as commands.
Yes. You basically
And
you have your searching and filtering options in one command, and then you say the output of this feeds into the input of that next thing on the list.
yeah, okay, now you're building a domain-specific programming language of sorts.
It, sort of, except that it
You
is
can make
built
sure it's
up.
Turing
Let him
incomplete.
finish.
Well, you can make sure it's Turing incomplete, but also you won't write it like a program. It is just a series of structures. This is like what I'm describing is like bread and butter on the web. This is GraphQL. This is JMap. This is those
Yeah,
kind of
and
things. That's basically what I'm describing. It's like, but instead you build up. I mean, and also it's this is IOUing. Like this is I
yes,
yeah. So it's that kind
all of
of
that has more
that.
attack surface than the whole Lua interpreter.
No,
The Lua bytecode is simpler than your graph optimization
Uh-huh.
logic.
no, that ancient Lua interpreter that we cannot update,
Yes.
that you have an entire interpreter in the kernel,
Why
that
can't
is
be
all.
updated?
It can't
Just
be
call it
updated. That
OpenZFS free and update it. Damn.
I can't. It will invalidate all existing programs because Lua doesn't guarantee compatibility between versions.
Well, Lua is
See you,
fairly
Daniel.
compatible.
I
Yeah,
do
see
not
ya.
want to have I do not want to have a third-party piece in the kernel that like it doesn't get security updates anymore. That old one, 5.1. It's
Of course not.
ancient. It's like 20 years old. Yeah, but
Isn't it 5.3?
this is my point. I don't want a third party. I don't want you running programs in the kernel
Oh, I
during
totally
complete
understand
pro,
that.
and that's the thing. And I don't see the need for it.
No, it wouldn't have to be in the kernel if you had an efficient streaming interface.
Yeah, but
Uh,
this is what I'm talking about.
the one reason why it's neat that it is in the kernel, which you can't do in user space with an efficient streaming interface, that is the atomicity, so that I
No,
can do
it's
some kind of planning within a certain transaction group while the kernel holds the relevant blocks,
no, it's
which
not
is
true.
okay.
If you can do your planning up front, this is to say if it is rich
Yeah.
enough that you can say, you know, these things like here's the entire batch, or even here is a start a transaction, end a transaction, and here's an identifier.
So what I want
Let
to
him finish. He's
express,
describing it. Let him finish.
I, yeah, I mean it can. I don't mean a ZFS transaction. I mean a conceptual. Like here is a batch, start batch, upload, end batch, go.
so what I want to express is stuff like this data set should have the following properties.
Yep.
This data set must have the following origin. If not, uh, but destroy it unless it has a written above a megabyte or something. And then, because then the user did something stupid and made the read-only clone writable. Then you have safety nettings to do something like, and this is a stale origin snapshot, destroy the clone, create a new clone.
Is that for idempotent?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
If I can make it atomic, because it's all in one transaction, then I don't even have to think about making it the steps idempotent if the whole operation is atomic.
So all four. So say you said four things there. All four of those things, are they related to the? Are they the same? Are they the same logical thing? Like
Yes, they're all part of the. I have a specification how I want this jail to be assembled out of
Yep.
persistent data, file systems, and clones in
Okay.
ZFS. And if I change my configuration, I want the jail on the next startup to detect that, oh, I'm out of sync with my specification. What do I have to do to converge to the specification
Bless you.
so that my jail will just
Yeah. And so
change
why?
the ZFS state to what's specified in the configuration file. So for
So
example,
where?
if I depended on FreeBSD 14 on a template of FreeBSD 14 free patch level 6, and now I want patch level 7, I just destroy the clone and take a clone of the other origin snapshot, which is now the specified one.
Right. So
It,
what is the conditional in there that would
Right
result
now,
in,
I do
result in
basically
you needing to abort that entire transaction, that roll it back or whatever, that
well,
atomicness.
and a board would be, for example, a safety features. I don't want to ever destroy a clone which has above some safety threshold, which I've arbitrarily set to 1 megabyte of written data
Mhm.
on it, because that's a clear indicator that this is not a little metadata you changed, like setting the property to read only as part of the cloning. It's like 8 or whatever, depends on your block size and so on, right?
Yep.
Uh, So a few kilobytes of written are to be expected on the clone. If I created a mount point directory in it, I make it writable, create an empty directory, and then make it read only again. And that's
Mhm.
done on every start of a jail, so it's effectively stateless.
Yep.
So a few kilobyte of written is fine, but if there's a megabyte in there, someone has clearly written lots of files in there and probably would be very unhappy with the automation if it just destroys the clone without
Yeah.
giving the user a chance to rescue the data manually. And that's kind of why when I
Okay,
break
so
out,
but why? What stops you from determining that upfront before you?
right now my script, because I can't do all of that in a channel program, runs in a read-only
Yeah,
transaction, and
but
it's kind of it's
yeah,
shell script pipe ZFS program. Oh no,
yeah,
it's
but
the
I mean,
here doc which
yeah,
runs the
yeah.
channel program.
No, but
So
I mean conceptually,
yeah,
like your assertion was I need to do these end steps inside the same
no, I
inside
don't
the
need to
same.
do that. But if I could, all the changes would be atomic to user space,
Yes, but what I'm
which
saying
would be
is why
nice because
That'd be
then
if you
I would
you
have to
look
do
up.
less idempotency logic in user space. Right
Yes,
now,
but
I do some extra stuff, and I could keep
what
that,
I the
and it would
question I'm
work.
trying to
We're
ask you,
circling
Jan,
the globe. We have latency one at a time. Give little pauses, please. Thank you.
the question I the remember my throwaway right at the start was I don't want a Lua interpreter in the kernel. And I don't believe I recognize that there is complexity. We do need some notion of filtering and matching and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But what is it that require in that world, what is it that requires like
So,
aborting a set of work? You would have upfront, you would determine what you determine what you need to
mm,
do, and then you say, okay, do it. If this thing might fail, like some policy decision, like a threshold,
mm.
then why would you even submit that work to be done? Do you see what I
Oh,
mean?
right now the Lua script doesn't do the work. It is the planning step, which
Yeah.
decides if it inspects the current ZFS state to check if it is in sync with the specification.
Yeah.
So I have my planning. So what the Lua channel program returns is a list
Yeah.
of commands to run.
And that's the thing, you would not do that. Instead, you would say, um, give
And
me the list of this might not be exactly right, but give me the list of data sets named or clones or whatever. Give me the list of data sets named the one I'm interested in with value below threshold. Then take the results of that and do some stuff. Of course, if it was not under that, if there wasn't a data set with that name with value under threshold, then the result of that would be 0, an empty list, and none of the rest would happen.
so that would work.
That's
The
literally
problem
what
is right now
that's what I'm
that
talking about.
ZFS list doesn't have, at the time I started, there was no JSON output. So there was no safe way, for example, to read a user property because a user property could have new lines in it and so on.
Oh yeah, totally. I understand that what we've got now is crap. But this is my
And
point. This is what I'm working towards. I
yeah,
promise I am not just ripping out Lua and giving
Leaving
nothing
you with
to.
nothing. Okay, cool.
In fact, I would like to see if it was possible to keep support for channel programs by reworking them in user space to be
I
this
mean,
kind of
there's
batching setup,
other than
which
the atomicity guarantee that all of this happens as part of a transaction, there's no technical reason you can't run the Lua interpreter, right? Or even right now, you could make it an RPC interface, right? So you run Lua and you
yeah.
give it like make this user space process unswappable, potentially give it some protection from, I don't know, if it gets killed, you just abort it as if the interpreter aborted.
Yeah.
So you treat it as a panic. You could just have it like establish a socket connection into the kernel and all the ZFS calls are RPC calls.
Yeah.
That would, you just have to make sure that the Lua interpreter doesn't deadlock if ZFS doesn't do normal VFS operation while that channel program runs in user space.
Yeah.
But you should
And
be,
what
as long as you
and
make sure that everything needed for the interpreter to make progress
yeah,
is resident in memory and can't be page out, and it won't do any system call which blocks and so on, then sure, you
yeah.
should be able to evict the interpreter out of the kernel.
Yep. That's the plan.
I mean, I think Linux
I
has
mean,
support for the kernel to spawn user space helper processes on demand.
yeah, well, I wouldn't do that.
So you could actually have the ZFS kernel module spawn it. I don't know if a similar feature exists in FreeBSD, that the kernel actually spawns processes of its own accord.
I mean, the kernel can always
It could always be
the kernel
implemented, but
business of creating processes, so there's always
but
ways. Does
only
it have?
not really. It's in charge of creating init, and everything follows from there.
No, I mean the kernel literally creates your processes. The kernel
Yes,
implements
but not
for
out of its own
knows how to
accord.
create a process. Sure, it does.
Normally, an existing process forks,
No,
or you have
it's normally
parameter POSIX spawn if it's
normally
a system call.
it's normally initiated by a user program calling a
Yes,
system call, but the code is there in the kernel.
of course.
And so from inside the kernel, we can do whatever the hell we want.
But the assumption is always, other than creating init, that you have a starting process. Kind of you're in a system call context of a user space process.
That's the user space interface.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm in the
Sure,
kernel,
exactly.
if I'm in
You
the
can
kernel, I
do
can
it,
do
of
anything.
course, you're in the kernel.
So are you aggressively agreeing? I can't tell.
I'm agreeing that it is ugly to be stuck on an old Lua version. I'm just saying it's also a very powerful tool to have.
Yeah, see, I
And
don't.
what is nice about it is in the current state, you can do kind of a map reduce approach. So I
Yeah, I don't see why.
serialize my target configuration as an argument list, then it inspects the system, queries the
I
state,
yeah,
walks the file systems, finds what's there, what shouldn't be there, and so on, and then returns a list of things I have to do to make it happen.
I am of the opinion that it is to do everything you want it to do. I would end up having to build something pretty close to what I'm describing, at least internally, if not in the actual interface. And then I still have the issue that there is a Lua interpreter in the kernel.
Or
Because ideally you just want to say, here's a thing, go, right?
I wonder
And
if it would be possible to make certain metadata available as a read-only mapped RCU style data structure. So you have an RCU style copy on free data structure in a shared memory mapping, and user space could just read that in some fashion.
well, yeah, I mean that may be the way you would interface these things
So
rather than
that stuff like
One at a
ZFS
time,
list just
please,
becomes
please, please, please.
100,000 times faster and everyone is happy.
Well, yeah, I mean that's if you get the data structures right. I mean you use it rather than serializing stuff and sending it over a socket, you instead just map a region and you use it, it's just a ring buffer or whatever. That's
I
the other
mean,
direction. But
this whole
conceptually
metadata.
One at a time, please, please. We've got the latency across the whole world to deal with. So just pause, please. So Rob, you were saying,
I was just saying conceptually, those are the same things.
Jan, do you see anything in Rob's broad proposal that would not allow you to do what you're hoping to do and struggling to do?
No, everything, if he does everything he said, it would be easier to do what I want.
Ah, well, there you go.
and a
I'm
lot cleaner. I wouldn't,
hallelujah.
but it's also a quite massive change, and I don't think that the code he describes would be smaller than the Lua interpreter.
Well, does it have to be? Here is a public request for funding of Rob's nifty idea. I hope you're listening out there, person who wants to help sponsor that. How about we leave it there?
Forgot we were still recording.
Yeah, there you go. For posterity's sake, it sounds like Rob has a well thought out solution to the issues you're addressing, and someday we'll have a die Lua die party. Anyway,
I promise you, Jan, I
ZFS.
will not make it suck. If it's worse for you, I will not even do it. It'll be experiments long before it also may be years, and I'm well aware of the idea of programmers making promises and not getting there. But also, I am
Oh,
feeling
yes.
of the past decade of ZFS people doing well-meaning things, and then disappearing and leaving three different ways to do things in the code. And I am determined to not continue that pile of legacy. So we'll see.
But the more realistic approach would probably be uh, some kind of list with tight control over recursion depth and filtering. Just
I mean,
range
go.
filtering would already help.
And that would be a bonus that everyone gets, because that means that ZFS list would suddenly become like superpowered. You could express all sorts. Please list all of the data sets that have, this property has this value, and or this property has less than this value, less than that value, and then the results of that, I also want all the ones that have their name matches this regex, and I want all the one from that list, I want all the ones that some other bloody crazy thing. And it is just, we are only limited by as many query operators that we implement, and the kernel can do that in one call. And then you can effectively build pipelines, like ZFS aware pipelines, except they wouldn't be executed in the shell. And you can say, and then the output of those, I'd like you to take a new snapshot of all of those, please. And then I'd like you to, do some other thing. And that would be one set of ops that goes into the kernel, and it would come back and say done or nah. And that could be done from the command line too.
Even if you have to stream one batch through the kernel, get the response, filter what you found in user space, and then send one listed operation or whatever you want to call it, it would be acceptable.
Yeah, I see no reason why that
doesn't have
can't
to be that you can perfectly chain everything into a single command invocation with your logic, because at that point you're kind of trying to enumerate everything, effectively creating something like a BPF, ZFS BPF or something.
Think more like SQL. I'm not saying it would be
Yeah,
as SQL.
no, but under the hood, the query engine is normally breaking stuff down into bytecode-like operations. If you look at something like SQLite or Postgres.
Yeah.
And
it absolutely goes down to that level, yeah. But you don't have.
I just
the interpreter
failed to find the OSDB paper. I think I brought it up in this context already.
Yeah, OSDB is fascinating. But again,
is
it's
that
really
like GNN, George Neville Neals?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
It is interesting.
Yeah, but at the same time, well, I mean, probably from one direction, one particular viewpoint, that is really doing exactly what web APIs have done for years and years and years, which is and even before web APIs, things like IMAP. You can tell I come from email, but
Oh.
where the idea being that submit a description of what you want to happen to the server, in this case, to the kernel, to the faraway thing, and say, please do that and tell me how you went or not. And it just does the right thing because the description language is sufficiently rich. But it's almost always an initial query, filters, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and take some operation on the
But
result, and then possibly take further operation on the result. But it's like a series, it's a transform pipeline.
the moment you give something like SQLite, it's recursive common table expressions, it's a Turing complete bytecode machine again. It's
Well, yes, but
just
that's a
another
choice.
flavor of
I'm
the
not
Lua problem.
Yeah, but I'm not saying that it would be SQL. I'm saying think about it like that. Think basically we've done this work in so many other contexts. There's no reason, and I mean ZFS is a database, so and it sucks internally that we don't have these kind of query operations. It's so hard to add new features. I mean, one of the coolest things about bcacheFS is it's literally written like this. It is internally because it's just one massive series of B trees. It's a database, and most new features that are added to it are write the query and then to build a list of work and then write some operations, and just over and over again. That's all it is, and we don't have the tools inside ZFS. So it's one of those things that I feel like unlocks so many options, unlocks so many things. You hear me talk about this a lot. I like bits of work that unlock 10 other things. but
So
to me, it's all the same thing.
To me, your explanation sounds like VFS needs this more than its consumers.
Well, maybe, but VFS is just another way of saying the POSIX API.
Sorry, ZFS
Oh, ZFS, yeah.
internally needs this more urgently than its consumers.
Yes and no. I need the very base foundational part of it for user space ZFS. I mean, the alternative is building an ioctl-like shim layer in user space, which is just fucking horror. It's I've written it. It's not even complicated. It's just horrible. It's like, why am I adding a layer to this thing to translate into a language? I mean, I consider the ioctl interface to be a language because those are not the primitives that ZFS uses internally. Not all of them, the list stuff that requires 4 different calls is because it's a paging thing. It's like, that's not the language that ZFS uses internally. That's the interface we present to user space programs. So to add a ioctl shim on top of that, it's just, now I'm translating from, English into French into, whatever the pure machine languages that ZFS operates in or something. I don't know. It's like, well, why convert to French at all? I don't know. It's a very bad metaphor, but you get what I'm saying. It's dumb and full of impedance matches and impedance mismatches and I just want to do it right.
Great. And I trust
Mm.
that, Rob, you will keep Jan's broader interests in mind when working on user space OpenZFS, because
Absolutely.
you're a very thoughtful kind person.
Yeah.
So,
And thank you, but I have no interest in doing work that no one wants, doing things that no one needs. It's part of the reason why I don't have a lot to show for it. I just talk about it because I think a lot about oh, but what does it mean for this? And what does it mean for this? And then I get tired and I wander off and do something else. Um,
Well, it's better that we are having this conversation at the start of the year rather than you blasting out a whole bunch of code over the holidays, ruining the holidays, and going down the wrong pathway. So,
no, absolutely
hallelujah.
not. And I will be having more conversations in Feb once I get started in the once everything's official, then I've got to go and have conversations with
And
the ZFS brass and make sure that my I'm not make sure I'm doing it the right way. Because the worst thing is turning up with 10 squillion lines of code that upends the world and expecting it to happen. That's not a good way to operate.
yeah,
That said, anything else at this very moment in human history?
No, nothing's happening in human history right now.
No, yeah, it's so boring. I know. It's like, geez.
Yeah.
Well, then one must make their own darn history.
so I
Yes,
have
Jan?
one more topic, and that is the idea of having some kind of RPC server instead of a better lib ZFS, where you would do something like ZFS serve and it would speak JSON RPC on standard in out or something, so that you don't have to fork a new JSON output ZFS command for every operation. You just have ZFS, the command, accept JSON RPC requests or some other RPC, for which it's easy to find language bindings. Just over standard input output, could be pipes, could be sockets, whatever. And probably should handle zpool commands too, but then the implementation would be an internal implementation detail, and what would matter is having a reasonable API with acceptable performance. What do you think, Rob? Is that a reasonable
Yeah, you've asked me this before, and
thing?
I don't
No,
I
you don't
don't
like.
Well, hold on, let him
well, it's
finish. Let him answer that
to me
question.
it's like I see what you're getting at, but to me it's like again, it's basically another way of saying the current interface sucks. Let's build a nicer interface over the top of it, that doesn't suck. And I'm like, yeah, I have sympathy for that, but why don't we just rip out the interface that sucks and build an interface that is good?
Um,
Is
Hopefully, because
very
we
broadly
can
my
get the acceptable interface first and then clean up underneath. Because I foresee the RPC calls would more or less map one-to-one to the ZFS command line interface with possible future additions, but the initial version should be basically a machine readable version of the CLI.
I mean, sure. I mean, you could write this right now. You could do it entirely in user space. Hell, you could
Yes,
even yeah. I'm
that's one of the
I
reasons I'm proposing it,
all
because
right.
it could be
I
done
am
right now in user space.
yeah, I am ambivalent. Um, I don't love it, but it wouldn't get in my way, which means I'm most likely just to not express an opinion. And if I end up being wrong, like everyone just goes, "Wow, yes, this is exactly the thing we want," then I'll go, "Okay, I was wrong. Let's do that." I wouldn't stand in the way of it. I'm not an asshole, but yeah. I just I like I like working on foundations and plumbing and let other people build a house. So yeah, I don't know. Is that a
Yeah,
so
makes
yeah,
total sense.
yeah. Um, but it's easy for me just to kind of say that at the moment because like no one's actually doing it. Like if someone turned up and said, "Hey, check this thing out that I've made," I would look at it seriously. I'm not, you know, I'm interested in solving problems, not technical purity. But if I can have both, I like it. You know what I'm saying?
On those prophetic words, how about I say something like, "Yo, Stu, muted, would you like the honors?"
Like and subscribe.
Thank you, everyone. That was awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Always a pleasure. Happy New Year in every regard.